Here's why I'm switching after a year of using the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera. If you should get it in 2022, there's some things that I really underestimated that I really wanted, and there's some really high pros with this camera that I wasn't aware of when I purchased it as well. So if you're thinking of getting this camera, make sure you watch the end because we're going over why I'm switching and then why this could be the perfect camera. And I have a bit of a bias towards color and image quality, so I just love color and the image that comes out of cameras, and so there'll be a bias on that. I have an entire massive course on color, so I heavily favor cameras that have really nice colors and an amazing image. So I'll just go over my personal pros, cons, why I'm switching, what other cameras have over top of this camera. Yeah, so let's get into it. So the first thing is just image quality. It's pretty insane image. It looks basically as good, if not better, as the R5 when I see videos of the 8K coming out of the R5. This 6K looks really good. The dynamic range makes the image look really nice, one of the big reasons why it looks nice. I love using RAW, so if you haven't used RAW before as a file to edit with, so change your settings in post, your exposure and stuff, I highly recommend trying that out because it's been really helpful, changing your contrast, changing your colors, being able to really manipulate the colors. And if you're a beginner, you will learn really quick. If you're shooting in RAW, it will teach you different ISOs and stuff like that. I'd see that being super useful for beginners. The other pro is just the price. The price is insane. I'm sure you guys know that. The menu system is super good because it strips out all the photo settings and it's video first, big touch screen, so it's just really easy. You could learn within a day how to use this camera really well. All the exposure tools built into the back of the camera, so like what a lot of monitors have, they'll have like zebras, false color, false LUT built into this, which is super helpful. Big pro there, huge pro. It shoots at 60 frames per second, so that's the minimum I would go when shooting. I wouldn't shoot at 24 very often. I'd need the option to go slow-mo, so it's good that it has the 60 frames per second. The external recordings, so I like the fact I record to like maybe a 2 terabyte, even a 4 terabyte external lightning or whatever, and then you just go straight into your computer and you can keep your project on this. So I really like that. Most people will, I think that's a con that you might need to external record, but I find it super really helpful. Low light's awesome. Everything at 32,000 ISO. If it's really dark, that's its native low light ISO, and simple as that, it's pretty good at low light. It's kind of big, but I kind of like big in a way. Yeah, size isn't too bad. Onto the cons now. So why shouldn't you buy this camera? So I'm not sure if I like the Blackmagic look. It kind of looks like you've got a Canon look with the highlights really pulled down. It looks great, like it looks really cinematic, but I'm just not sure if I could. I would rather a look like Sony or Canon, I think, over the Blackmagic. Also, the image, it's really a lot of pixels in there. You can tell it's 8K. It looks really good, but it also looks like it's not very sharp. Looks like a really high quality iPhone image. It looks kind of pixely. The Canon looks a lot more natural. It might be only in 1080 or something like that. It just looks way sharper, pixels look denser or something like that. Something about the Canon look I kind of like a bit more. Sony and Canon colors, it looks quite similar, but the Blackmagic line looks very different. So yeah, it takes photos like 20 megapixel photos, but it's kind of unusable with no autofocus and stuff like that. So basically unusable photos, but it does, I don't know. There's no autofocus in the camera, so it's a big downgrade coming from the 1DX Mark II that has really good autofocus, perfect autofocus, really entirely manual focus with this. So it's not full frame, so I think the full frame look is really underrated, and it's kind of a deal breaker for me. I don't like the look coming from the APS sensor. Like the full frame for sure, you get much more depth of field, especially on small devices. You kind of need that really blurry background for your image to pop. So we all consume on iPhones and laptops and stuff like that, where you can get away with shooting at a ridiculous shallow depth of field. Like whenever I'm scrolling and I see like a GH5 video or something like that, which is like micro four thirds sensor, I just think it just looks like an iPhone or something. You need like 10 batteries to use this thing, so it kind of sucks. B-RAW, which is the profile this shoots in, is great, but it doesn't work in Final Cut Pro, which I think is by far the best editing software. So high frame rates, it's got 120. It can't shoot in RAW, and 120 is a huge crop, so it zooms in like crazy, which makes it pretty much unusable. So you sort of have to use a 6K. I really like 120 and kind of need it. I want really good, high quality, usable 120 frames per second. So everyone is shooting on this camera, and you can tell when it's the Blackmagic 6K, like everyone doesn't quite have their own unique look because everyone is shooting on it, all the videographers that is. I sort of want to drift away from that, and when I do see someone shooting on Canon or Sony, it like really like looks way different, and I kind of like that. So it's average water sealing and dust sealing. But since the camera's so cheap, if something did happen to it, you could replace it pretty easily. So price sort of helps you there. Just when using the camera, sometimes it like freezes, like the menu, and like just freezes, and you have to like turn off the camera, turn it back on. Might be still frozen, but eventually it always fixes itself. But it just doesn't give me a huge amount of confidence when it starts flicking around, like acting like a iPhone that needs updating. Whereas with Canon, I never had that. So I think my next camera is gonna be the R5 or the camera that comes after the R5, because Canon colors are my favorite if it's shot in a flat pitch profile. Colors I think are better in Canon, even though these are great colors like skin tones and stuff like that. Looks really great. I think Canon is a bit better there. Full frame is something that I really want. My next Canon is going to have that. Autofocus is something I really want too, especially at those high frame rates. It just makes for really dynamic shots, especially on a gimbal. I notice that sometimes when people especially when they upgrade to like cinema cameras that I read, maybe sometimes the Blackmagic, you all of a sudden notice that their shots are a lot less dynamic. The Canon autofocus was amazing, and you could just spin around someone and it would hold focus perfectly, and then you could take that tiny little second where it looked really good. So I love that. So again, the colors, so like I think the Canon flat look looks the best detail, but the image is so much sharper, so I'm going to look forward to shooting Canon in a flat picture profile. I think you can make it look way more vibrant and nice. And then high frame rate, so I need a camera that shoots really high frame rates, ideally shoots in RAW. I might have to use an external monitor if it doesn't shoot in RAW, just to nail focus. And I need a camera that shoots photos, sort of a must for me. I don't really want to be carrying two cameras if I'm traveling. Sometimes you need two cameras anyway. You need one if your camera breaks, if you're shooting for a client, or you want a time-lapse camera, you just have two cameras anyway. So ideally I want an all-in-one camera. Shooting on this camera made me realize how much I like Sigma glass. I think when you get a really high resolution image, the small differences between glass becomes more noticeable, and I really liked all the image images coming out from Sigma glass. So that was just one thing I really like. So yeah, that's just my personal little review of it, why I'm changing. So who's this for? I think if price is your biggest thing, you don't have the budget for that top camera, I think this kills the GH5, the Panasonic line, and if your video is focused, I think it's a no-brainer to go with this one. If photos aren't a huge deal to you, I think nothing beats it even close to that for the price. So if you're video focused and you're price sensitive, this camera is the way to go, I reckon. So if you want to learn everything you need to know about color grading, getting unique looks, how to create your own looks, I have a free training that will teach you about the curves and the color theory and the color wheel and stuff like that, which will really excel. It's the first place you need to start when learning about colors and color grading. And then a lot of my stuff on YouTube is about Lightroom, but the best LUTs are made in Lightroom. So you've got to learn Lightroom, and then we turn presets into LUTs, and then you can get a really unique look. Like you can get your own look if you really understand the curves and color theory and how to balance colors and stuff like that. So I don't like DaVinci Resolve color grading because really you're gonna paint colors onto skin tones for every single shot, manually put in blue and color grade every shot individually. You want to make it in Lightroom, make a really good preset, turn that into a LUT. So you need to understand color really well, and I've been able to create very unique looks that no one else has because I understand color really well. So if you want to learn about color, check out the free training and check out the course, which will, if you really want to master color and creating looks and color grading, that's where you need to go. And another thing, I want to travel way more. Like I want to almost go the entire year traveling this coming year, 2022. I want a camera that is extremely user friendly. The batteries and the no flip screen, it just creates friction between turning the camera on and recording, where I didn't really have that with the 1DX. The battery life was amazing, cards didn't fill up really quick, it didn't have a flip screen, but it just felt way easier just to turn it on and capture really nice things. Otherwise guys, you can comment down below if you have any other questions about it, and yeah, I'll catch you in the next one.